You are watching Xirtus.
Originally, Christ and the whole point of Jesus is, hey, you're in charge of yourself. You don't need the Sadducee. And at the time when Christ is doing this, the
Right.
Sadducee are under the control of a Roman Empire, which is about to collapse, and they're taking bribes. And so a big part of why Jesus dies, Yeshua is at the temple, noticing that there are rackets where they're taking money from the people and saying, hey, you want to buy a shekel? So you can give a shekel to the church, because we don't take regular money. You can't just donate regular money to us. You have to buy a Jewish coin, which is like a token for our arcade. And that's going to cost you.
Yeah.
Even though a shekel is not worth this amount of money, we're going to charge you $500 for it. So you have these little tiny ladies that can't afford to give away their shekels, and Christ is like, bro, you're screwing it up. You're not allowed to do that. Cut to 500-600 years later, and now you've got people being crucified to be like Christ. You have people that are under the control of some priesthood that says that they have a pope who is God, right? The pope speaks for God and as God at that point. So everything is all shifted by the point of the King James Bible, and King James is obsessed with demonology and magic.
I would argue that a lot of that has to do more with the emphasis and the interpretations put on people, less than the actual King James Bible itself. Like, you can find all of the things like in the Bible, it's just what people emphasize and how they use it to control people. But the Bible itself, like, doesn't do these things. Like, the translation itself doesn't do these things. In my opinion.
And what do we mean when we say a Bible? Because again, there's the Septuagint, there's these collection of books. So you took 77 books and put them together and call that the Bible. Not everyone agrees which books are in the Bible. And at that time, particularly, you could put whatever books you want in the Bible and take whatever books you want out of the Bible. And you could take parts of books out of the Bible, or you could put two books together.
Yeah.
Right? So there's like Genesis.
I still think that the book
many books.
Genesis is 5
I still
books.
think the book of Enoch should be in the Bible. I think the book of Enoch is dope.
Good. And so this brings up a crucial part I've been thinking about.
The Ethiopian Bible has it, right?
Well, and it's the fact of what was pre-cataclysm that was included in the Bible, right? Because there was the Old Testament and like Genesis that were saying there was giants in those days. Like the book of Enoch was clearly the pre-cataclysm, and then there's the time of afterwards, and it's what books were excluded and what books are these pre-cataclysm stories and leftovers of the original society or civilization.
Right, and most of Genesis is after the cataclysm, so there's probably a bunch of books, not just the book of Enoch, but there's probably a score of books from that time.
And a lot of the books that we have are based on other books. So Genesis is made of 5 other books, including the books of giants, the book of Enoch, the book of Moses, etc. They're all part of it. But there's also Deuteronomist reforms.
Are all of those books available? Are they things we still have?
You can get them, yeah, for sure. In the Apocrypha, there are different kinds of examples, and I can get you copies of that. Actually,
so I've never heard of the book of Moses being available. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's cool. Or the Book of Giants. And I've listened on YouTube while I'm a trucker, to most Apocrypha, but I didn't know about those two.
I'm a trucker, I know the Apocrypha pretty well. I wish that was a normal stereotype. That's the best stereotype about truckers. We study the Apocrypha a lot, as truckers.
Yeah, we all know. Like, it's a given that we know the Apocrypha, okay?
One of the things is, like, you can actually still see the changes. So you go to, like, if you read in Genesis, where it starts talking about Noah. So for the sacrifices, 2 of every kind or 7 of every clean animal, all these things, it says that we're supposed to have 2 of every kind, right? And we all know the story of Moses. I keep saying Moses. Noah having an ark with 2 of every kind of animal, male and female of every animal. But if you read it,
I always wonder if the ark was like hardcore technology. Well, like, how do you fit all of those animals? Go on. Sorry.
Yeah, let's get to that point in a second, because it actually gets worse, because it's not just 2 of every animal, it's 7 of every sacrificable animal. And there's a lot of these parts of the Bible like that where it says one thing and then it says another thing, and they've cut out things because about 1,000 years into Judaism, the Cohen priesthood, the Cohen tribe, the priests of Aaron, they're in charge of all sacrifices. So let's say you're in the Reuben tribe, you want to sacrifice to forgive yourself to God, you're not allowed to. They won't let you anymore. You used to do it. Now you have to go to your cousin's tribe and pay them. And then they swing a chicken over your head and cut its head off, right? They kill the chicken. But or they have to sacrifice a cow, or there's 7.
Well, they were monopolizing sacrifice.
Yeah, they monopolize sacrifices, and to this day, the Cohen priesthood still monopolizes both sacrifice and court and trials. So you get a Cohen lawyer, you got a good lawyer, because that's their whole. That's why they exist. Their whole thing is to either sacrifice chickens or get you off.
And they try to
trial.
claim their lineage back to King David, the Cohens.
Of course, yeah. And so the idea that all of these different tribes at one point were able to make their own sacrifices, and that's in the Bible, well, that bothered the Cohen priesthood. So they actually had, through the Deuteronomists, during the time of King Josiah, a bunch of the Bible removed, a bunch of the Torah removed. And we have copies of that too. So you can see like the difference when in Isaiah, for instance. Isaiah is actually 3 books added together, written over 600 years apart. You know, there's like a part that's really ancient, and there's a part that's a lot closer to the time of Jesus. And you can see that there's an argument going on in Judaism, because they have got 12 tribes, 13 tribes who are being forced to, there's a lost tribe, tribes that are being forced to not make their own sacrifices, not do their own religious worship, not have their own family shrine anymore, because now they have to go to the kingdom of Jerusalem, Salem, right? Salam, you know, and so from like peace. So they go to Jerusalem, and then from there they have the Cohen priests do all the rituals for them. And this is written in the Bible. You can read about it in 2 Kings. 2 Kings talks about how King Josiah comes in, his priests kill all of the other tribes' priests. And that's the end of what we think of as the confederated 12 tribes of Israel, and the beginning of this sort of, you know, hierarchy of Israel, the kingdom of Judea, right? And the kingdom of Judea is different than the 12 tribes of Israel. I mean, it's just like, this always happens. You have these smaller groups that become this bigger thing. And a lot of people die. That's the thing about it, is once they start killing, once the Deuteronomists take over, they murder all the priests, and they burn them alive. They crush their bones into powder. They desecrate their altars. This is all in the Bible, but they're like, yeah, it was a good thing, you know, because they were bad. So we're the good guys.
Oh,
obviously.
yo.
There's a question if I'm on OnlyFans.
Check this out.
Not currently, but I should be. So.
He's on OnlyCams, but only in the early episodes.
I was watching this Genesis commentary yesterday, right? This guy does 24 hours of Genesis commentary. Some Bible scholar dude. Yeah, you know, he does 24 hours of it. I
study the Bible.
Yeah, so I watched the first 2 hours of the 24. And anyways, what was nuts is that there's actually a code of every. So in Genesis, what's the first 5 again? So Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and what's the last one?
Is it Kings or Judges? Oh man.
So anyway,
numbers, right? Numbers.
The first,
is it numbers.
Yeah, numbers. Okay, so the first two books, that if you take the 49th in Hebrew, okay, if you take the 49th letter from the very first paragraph of Genesis, the first 2 books, right? If you take the 49th of Hebrew and it spells out Torah. So it's Torah, and then, but then the third book, it doesn't do that. And it's like, what the fuck? But then the fourth book spells Torah backwards when you do the 49th letter, right? And so it's like, he was like, what's the deal? Why does it not do it in the third book? And then if you do the 7th letter in the third book, every 7th letter it spells out Yahweh. So Torah is like in Hebrew is Torh. So it spells that. And then so it's like this code, it's like Torah, Yahweh. It's crazy, dude.
Yeah, there's another one.
And 7 is 7 and 40. 49, 49 is 7 times 7, right? And like 7 is a hugely powerful number, and so it's every 7th in the third one that says Yahweh. It's insane, dude. There's stuff like that all over the Bible.
Totally, like the Book of Esther
with the sacred G, the 7th letter. Anyway.
I was gonna say the Book of Esther has the sacred name of God like 5 times or some amount of times.
Yeah, think of how hard it would be if you're writing the Bible and encoding that stuff in, and also keeping everything coherent. To contrive a code like that.
The true writing.
Well, that's the argument, right? That's the argument, is that it's written outside of time.
Code.
Like
exactly.
This one's pretty good to me.
One. So with you can tell the new ones have been distorted.
With the Book of Esther, there's 167 verses, and the median king is mentioned 192 times. The kingdom is referred to 26 times, and his name Ahasuerus is given 29 times. But the name of God is never brought up, and people thought about this a long time. Like, should we even have this Book of Esther? What's the point of the Book of Esther? She's just like serving her people. It's a good historical story, but it's not necessarily about God. Well, then the thing that they find out is that there are hidden acrostics in which the initial letter of each line spells out a word, the same thing that you're talking about, Colin, and it spells out the tetragrammaton. Tetragrammaton about 5, I think it's at least 5 times. The first one is here, and when the king's decree, which he shall be published throughout of his empire, all of the wives shall give to their husbands honor, both great and small. And this is Yahweh. And then the second one is, and Esther answered, it seems to be good unto the king. Let the king and Haman come to this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him. And then there's it again. And the third one, yet all availeth me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate. There's Yahweh again. Fourth one, and the king arises from the banquet of wine his wrath in the palace garden. And Haman stood up to make request for his life to the Esther his queen. By the way, Haman, interestingly, is in the South Park Jubilee, right? In the episode where Moses and the Jews are, the Jew scouts are like working together, right?
Isn't Jubilee every 49 years?
Yeah, so the Jubilee is actually the erasure of a debt. And so it's supposed to be that all of the debts are erased and all the slaves are freed, and that's supposed to happen. But in this one, Haman is the villain who's working against Moses, right? Because there's the anti-Semitic League of Jews at the Jubilee, and they're praying to Haman. Right?
Jubilee.
The fifth one is the above or the four. Let's see here. I am Esther, I shall prove to be. There we go. Above or 4 of them. Okay, so you get the idea. There's a fifth one there. I don't know. It's interesting to me how much of the Bible is written in code. A lot of people talk about this idea of the Omega code that the Bible is holding. I think that's interesting, particularly
even
from
Tesla. Nikola Tesla stated that he got electricity from the Bible.
John Dee, his whole thing was that the Bible, in the English itself, English is an angelic language, angel English, and that the modern 16th century English, the way King James had created it, or the people who worked for King James, like William Cecil, Sir Francis Bacon, and John Dee, that they were trying to channel the language of the angels, right? The Enochian. And so modern English is supposed to be related to Enochian, and the Bible is holding all these mathematical
I didn't know that.
hidden keys. Yeah, for sure. So like, it's kind of
I
funny
didn't know English was related to Enochian at all.
It's hilarious because imagine like you're a Protestant and you're like in Africa and like you're trying to get kids to read the Bible and you're reading and you're like, here, read it in God's English. Like, what if there's something to that? That's kind of, because what is English, right? It's an occult synthetic.
This is all more the reason for people to learn English when they come to the country.
Yeah, it's God's language.
Yeah, English is God's favorite language for sure.
Wait, Andrew, sorry, what were you trying to say?
It's the angelic ones. Don't get it mixed up.
Sorry, I got a kid in the background. I was just asking if Hebrew was written right to left.
Yeah, so originally Hebrew is right to left. It still is. Yeah.
Is that just because of the direction that they would roll their scrolls?
I don't know. See, because it's interesting, like Chinese is usually right to left also, and it's vertical. It's vertical right to left, right? So I think that there might be something to that. I'm not sure exactly why. We should ask Rob.
Because having a way to organize stacked paper versus rolling it up really sort of like shifted the direction.
I don't know. I think they just do it because they're Jewish.
Descriptive all from an early Semitic writing system, which were also right to left. The one theory suggests the direction suited the tools and materials used, and the scribes, often right-handed, found it easier to carve or write on stone or clay tablet with their dominant hand moving right to left, avoiding smudging ink, which to me seems strange.
That's genius. I hate smudging ink when I'm writing. That sucks.